Yeah.
Hey, okay, so I want to just have the biggest, warmest, most juicy welcome ever to truly one of my favorite people ever, B. I'm so grateful for you in every way. I was B's one-on-one client for 6 months. Um, Fucking changed my life, man. I love you so much, and I love all the work that we got done together, and all of it is composted now, and we're on to the next thing. So it's pretty cool stuff, and the human design for business ecosystems. And the way that I see my business, the way I see my enterprise, I have an enterprise at this point, is it was so I didn't even know how to describe it. Go listen to my testimonial on her Instagram if you want to, but um it truly changed my whole fucking way of navigating and relating to myself within my navigation process. And B's gonna explain a little bit about all of those things to you guys today. And she is just, yeah, a really masterful mind in regards to human design and is a manifesting generator, sacral manifesting generator or something, emotional.
Emotional.
Yeah. So, and she's got so much juice for you. So let's all give her a very warm welcome because she just woke up and raced to get on Zoom for us. So, so sorry about that again. And nonetheless, take it away.
Thanks, babe. Yeah, it was so funny. I like don't even check my emails usually. And I was like, check the emails. I was like, in 1 hour. Okay. But we're here and we're doing the thing, so that's all good. All right, I'm gonna pull up a presentation. Just for curiosity, do you guys know your human designs? Because I will tailor it as well. Just pop your human designs in the chat so I know. Um, Taryn, I'm not sure if you know the rest of the ladies' human design, so I'll just kind of go through all the types. And then if I miss anything, I can always just like send a voice note over because there's quite a lot
Yeah,
of.
we have a reflector in here too. She was supposed to jump on this call. She might still come to
I've
the
got
call.
reflector covered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So, because I would definitely wanted to have it be, I wanted to talk about the reflector because we had
clinic.
another co-collaborator as a reflector too, who actually went at 12 p.m. today. So, anyways, a
Yeah.
lot of reflector vibes. I'm like, I want to learn more about reflectors too. So, something about
Mhm.
reflectors would be good.
Perfect. No, I've got that covered. No worries. I've got splenic, I've got self-projected. Great. Because there's like 7 different authorities. So I was like, I'll choose the main ones. Then if there's any like extras, we can cover it. But I've got everything that you guys are as well. So we're good. Okay, so let me pull this up. Amazing. Well, thanks for having me, babe. I'm so excited to be here. I'm like just feeling my body wake up. So the lens that I want to take, because there's so many lenses of human design, the lens I want to take this today. It's really about optimizing your energy, your decisions, and your self-leadership within your business ecosystem. So we're not specifically getting into like, I'm a this and I have to build this because I think there's a lot of nuance in human design, and there's a lot of noise in human design. If you've tried, if you've Googled it or learned it, there's so much to learn. And doing this for 6 years, like I've always come back to these core foundations. And when these are implemented, intentionally, these are the things that change the game because it, affects how you're attracting things to your life. It affects how you're making the decisions. And when you're making those aligned decisions and you're in coherence with your own energy, you're building the correct things because you're saying yes to the correct things, right? So we're going to be diving into the type, authority, and profile because profile is absolutely excellent for self-leadership as well and how you present yourself. And then at the end, when we've gone through it, I will open space as well. So any questions, just drop them in the chat or, keep them and I'll open space at the end for you guys. Alrighty, so just covered that bit. A little bit about me. So I think Taryn did a great job of introducing me, but I'm a human design mentor and business architect. So the way that I work is I work with the systems and the strategy and the structure and the masculine side of business, but I also fuse it with the energetics because when I started to do this work, I started to see that, one person could apply the strategy of a super successful person and nothing would happen. And it was because of the energy at the foundation. And so when I started to fuse human design with the structure and the systems, that was when things started to get really juicy because it was built by that person's energy for that person's energy. And it also just removes so much resistance, right? So I'm a 1-3 emotional manifesting generator. And so let's dive into Human design. So the way that I like to look at human design is very holistic. And so it's really easy when we see the chart to look at the numbers and look at the colors and look at all that stuff and be like, what does that even mean? But I like to see it as your personal energy circuit. So when you look at this, it's showing you where your energy is open, where your energy is dominant and turned on, certain flavors that make up your energy, how you might make decisions, how you might operate with structure. And so it's giving you a unique manual to you, what makes you one of one. And again, this is why using a strategy that, your coach has, or using a strategy that somebody said is like the secret sauce, 9 times out of 10 won't work unless you've applied it to your own energy because it's not you. That person might be super successful, but they're a manifester. You're a projector. Of course it's not going to work. And so when we look at our unique source and we start to learn how to operate from that, that's how it's, the synchronistic alignment where it's like, wow, magic is just coming. No, it's not just like appearing. It's because you're in alignment with your energy. You're attracting exactly what you need to. So in business, this is showing you your unique strengths, right? Where you'll feel friction if you force yourself into someone else's model. Again, where strategies feel effortless for some and exhausting for others. It's the same, like it exhausts me when I see all of these, like, here's 50 hooks and here's like this. And you're like, bro, yeah, one of those might work, but I can't create content like you. That's not the way I'm designed to create content. That's not the way I'm designed to build either. And so looking at your chart and knowing these flavors is where you're able to lead yourself with, and I always say this, like self-discernment, and you guys know this, I mean, this is why you're in the room, but self-discernment at the core of everything, right? If we're not able to self-discern first and foremost, none of that stuff gets to land. Like, we're here to learn. We're here to, even today, you're taking on information that I'm giving you, but it's running it through that filter of like, is this truth for me? Does this feel like I can go take that and play with that? If not, fuck it off. Like, literally, fuck it off. So, yeah, human design is really giving you that roadmap to this is how I'm designed, and you're able to lead yourself from that as the base point versus like how am I meant to do things and seeking that all externally and then wondering why it feels, so intense or so heavy or you feel so much friction. Now, in human design, we've got 4 types, but 5 because the man-gen is like a subtype of the generator. So I say 5. This type element is basically the way that your aura operates. So we all have the aura, 3 to 7 foot wide, and this kind of gives us a label for that aura. It's really important to understand because, again, we're in a world where everybody's operating differently. A lot of us are taught to operate in the same way. And so we're like, oh, well, let's all just go and like initiate our dreams. Yet there's actually only one type that's meant to consistently push forward, whereas the rest need an opening, right? So again, okay, let me understand that about myself so I can move in coherence with my energy and allow myself to open to even more opportunities. So it shows us like how we generate and we access energy, whether our energy is consistent or cyclical, or whether our energy can be self-propelled, like I said, the manifester, or just responsive and open to, we need a kind of gateway. So the type is how your energy operates, how your aura operates. Then we have what's called a strategy. So when you Google human design, you're probably going to see these 2 things first: type, strategy, and then authority. These are what we're going to be diving into. What I find is most people skip these. So they'll learn their type briefly, they learn their authority, they learn the strategy, but then they want to go know what the gates mean, or they want to go know what the centers mean, which is so important, yes. But if you're not leveraging these 3 foundations first, the rest doesn't work. You could know that you have an open spleen and how, effective that can be for your body. But if you don't know how to make decisions and attract things in, that spleen can't work. That spleen can't give you the wisdom that you need, right? So type is your energy. Your strategy is how you direct that energy, how you attract experiences into your life, your magnetism, basically. And this is also the piece, like when, and we've all experienced this, when we go with our mind, and there is one type of authority that is mental. So if you are a mental projector, I don't think anyone is on this call, but anyone who's watching the replay, you will need to activate your mind. But for the most part, when we make decisions from the mind, that's from a lot of conditioning. It's from a lot of shoulds. It's maybe questions that, somebody else might have asked us or what somebody else might have been doing. When we go with our strategy that's alignment with our human design, it's from the body and it's from the correct place in the body too. So when people talk to intuition and they're like, just listen to your intuition. Human design authority and strategy is where it's showing you where to look at that, where to call that in a unique way to you. So we're going to get into each type. So manifesting generator is around 37% of the population. It's blended between, if you're a generator, you're going to have a lot of similarities with the manifesting generator. Manifesting generator is going to have a lot of similarities with the generator. There are slight differences. So manifesting generators at the core, we are built for momentum and mastery. We are built to build. We are built to do. If you're a man gen, you probably have felt this, like there's an element of speed that's included in your energy. There's an element of being able to just get a lot done. There's a lot of tabs open at once sometimes, but it's also sometimes a little bit, we can pivot very quickly between things versus actually like really honing in and learning to master something. So manifesting generators, the strategy in how we kind of attract the world to us, attract experiences to us, is to wait to respond. Now, when it says wait to respond, I feel like the mind jumps on that and is like, well, I'm built for momentum. Why would I wait? Right? But it's not about necessarily sat waiting for something magic to happen. It's more about responding in every single moment, right? So responding through, am I available for this thing or am I contracted? Am I a hell yes or am I a no or not yet? And what a lot of the time can happen is the mind can override that, or people can override that. And it's like, oh, well, but I should, or like that person's doing it, or they're showing up that way, or they're investing that way. So maybe I need to. But there's a reason, and the response energy comes from the sacral. And the sacral is life force energy, it's creative output, right? So if your body's saying, hey, no, I don't have availability for that thing, it's because it knows that there's something else that is coming or it's not the right time. And so you might go ahead and say, yeah, I'm going to do that. And it's not an alignment. And the next minute, you're having to retrace your steps because it wasn't in alignment. Versus when you wait and it's like, no, like this is a no for me, the next thing that comes in and when it's a yes will be the thing and you'll have the energy for it, right? So the way I explain this and the way that I live this day to day is, of course we have, appointments, of course we have commitments. Those are things that sometimes, even if we don't have the energy for it, we're building, empires, ecosystems. Like we got to do some things we don't want to do sometimes. Like that's just the reality of it. But I do wake up day to day and I'm like, what am I responding to? Even the way that I eat breakfast, the way that I go socialize with friends is always is it like an opening in my body? Am I drawn to this thing? Or is it a no? And when it's a no, I set the boundary because I know that I'm being led to something else. And so it can be something as simple as, you're sat down to do some work and you're just feeling, super blocked. Your energy is feeling really contracted. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to go for a walk instead. Next minute, you go for a walk and you listen to your body, and the most amazing business idea drops in, right? That is how the response works. And human design also, it's labeled the human design experiment. And so the reason it's called that is because we actually do need to take it out and live it. And so, if you've not already been living by your human design and implementing this in your day to day, that is my invitation to you because you need to gather evidence. And so, what happens when I wait to respond? What happens when I set that boundary and I listen to my energy? I have what's called response days sometimes where I clear my calendar and I just let my body lead myself through the day and I gather evidence as to what magic happens, and like random stuff will happen or random ideas will come in because you are being given the energy you need in every moment. It's just about tuning into it. So, Sustainable energy when you are responding, but what I will say is, and this is where we see a lot of burnt out generators in the 9 to 5 and like in our society, when they're not responding correctly, you're built for generative energy, where responding brings you more. When you are pushing, when you are forcing, what happens to your body is it becomes degenerative. And this is where burnout will happen. This is where, oh, I'm just not creative. Where are all my ideas? Because you're not responding correctly, right? So it's super important to tune into this response energy if you are a generator or manifesting generator, because it quite literally is a business strategy, right? It's what am I building? What am I saying yes to? What am I spending my money on? It's all through response. Now, the way that this might show up in your body is either or both a sound or a feeling. So the feeling will probably be, if someone says, do you want to do this? Or, you know, there's this thing available, you'll feel either pulled towards it or you'll feel like you want to either lean back or there'll be like no response or a contraction. You also might make sounds. And so this could be like a or a ooh. If somebody says something really exciting to you and you make like a literal sound and it's very primal, it's not usually got words, it's like a ooh or a squeal. And sometimes if it's a no, it'll be like a and a lot of us will bypass those sounds. Oh, I've not froze. No, I'm back. And that's the sacral speaking. So if you are a generator or manifesting generator, watch for these sounds, right? So I've got some notes here and I'll send Taryn the slides. I usually put notes on screen and then I just like completely channel through it all. But the core strengths of the manifesting generator, fast execution. So once you are in alignment, you can blitz through things. Multi-passionate focus too. Don't be afraid to have a few things on the go. Like my work day is me literally cycling between 5 different tasks at any one time. High capacity when aligned. Now, the friction points, saying yes to too many things too quickly. This is a big one. Or, getting bored with something that you're building and then starting something completely new. I always use the analogy of like planting a garden. Let's say you're like, okay, I'm going to plant this garden and I'm going to plant these seeds. And then one starts growing and you're like, oh, yay, okay. And then you start planting all these other new things and you're giving your attention to all the like newness and you're not actually tending your garden. And then you're like, wait, why did nothing actually build? Why did I end up like with all this half grown stuff, but nothing actually like gave me fruit? Well, have started all these different projects. So it's really about honing in and committing to the end goal. Now, you can pick up different things within that portal, but we're actually designed to be finishers. And what I've found with being a man gen is it's about shifting where you get the dopamine from, where you get the passion from. And so instead of getting those hits of newness because it doesn't feel boring and it's like new, get the hits from the journey of growing and leveling up and seeing like a new flower bloom in the same garden, right? That is the key for the man gen. And that's how you get to the point where it's like, oh my God, I've built something so sustainable. But a lot of manifesting generators don't get to that point because we're always starting again. And it's like, oh, but no, I'm like, I need to fuel my passions. Yeah, but like, what's your overarching goal, right? So optimizing here, responding before committing. So checking in with your body before you commit to anything. Let yourself pivot, but also be asking yourself the question of like, is this nurturing my overarching long-term vision? Um, Let excitement refine direction, not derail it. And like I said, finish what still feels alive. Now, one thing I use in my day to day for recalibration are emotional cues. You might read them on Google as not self themes and alignment themes. I like to call them emotional cues. Imagine you've got an emotional thermometer and like a gauge that you can read. These are going to show you where there might be room for redirection and where you are in alignment. Now, for the man gen, alignment is satisfaction. This is probably just flow state, right? So you're not really having to question anything. You're in flow state, things feel good, you're moving forward. Now, the recalibration signal is frustration. This can also show up as like a procrastination. So I find for me, like when I'm in my frustration, I'm either literally frustrated or I'm trying to do anything but the thing. So I'm like in the fridge, I'm upstairs like plucking my eyebrows or something. Like it's anything but because I'm frustrated with the fact that my energy is not anchored to the thing I want it to be. But what's happening there is your body is saying like something's got to shift here. That might be switching task. It might not be completely closing down for work or like completely saying no to something, but it might be just pivoting slightly. If you're writing something, it might be, speaking to something or getting on a call, whatever it is for you. Or it might be literally logging off for the day and going to service your joy first, you know? But reading that piece and being like, okay, I'm frustrated. I can feel this. Nothing's moving forward. What do I got to do to move towards satisfaction? Even just a step closer to that. So it's a really good tool you can use in your day to day because it really can help you recalibrate in the moment and just shift. And then you can move back into that alignment where you're responding correctly and you're more magnetic. So the generator is very, very similar. And with human design, the nuance with human design is we're always plugging into other energies. And so I'll use Taryn as an example. Taryn's a generator, but she's almost fully defined. She has an open throat. I love that I know your chart like so well, like off by heart. She has an open throat. Taryn, 9 times out of 10, when she's in an environment with other people, will be fully defined, aka will be a manifesting generator. So when we worked together, she was like, but I really resonate with the man gen. Well, yeah, because a lot of the time you actually are that because you're plugged that way. So with the generator, it's very, very similar. And you may even find as a generator, you resonate with a lot of man gen stuff because you will be plugged by your environment. The thing with the generator that I've learned from just doing so many readings and listening to people is that it's more of a level by level approach. And the generator will hit multiple plateaus through their experience. Now, we all will, but these plateaus are very, very important for the generator. So, and very frustrating too. So, it's about sustainable creation and mastery. What will happen in these plateaus is you'll find that you've got momentum. So things will be working, you're really creative, you're building, like progress is being made. Then you'll hit this level where you're like, what? You might bump into some blocks. You might, money might change, whatever it is, and it'll feel like things have just been like dried up slightly. Maybe your ideas, maybe the thing that you're working on doesn't feel as alive anymore. These moments are so, so important because what they're doing is showing you what might need to shift, what might need to be recalibrated, or what you might need to let go of. And what a lot of generators do in these plateaus is they give up, right? And they go, oh, you know what? Well, it's obviously stopped working. Let me again go find something else, or let me just peace out, right? And I see this with a lot of my clients where they'll be really consistent with building, they'll be really consistent with content, like they're making progress, and then they'll hit their plateau and they peace out for 3 months. But when they come back, they have to rebuild everything from scratch because it's been so long. But it's about sitting in this moment and seeing it not as like it's a sacred pause, right? It's a recalibration. What am I being shown to recalibrate? How can I use this spaciousness to refuel my energy, revisit, and just tend to like what might need to be tweaked? Because on the other side of that plateau is another momentum. And that's where like so many get stuck in that plateau phase when actually you can get excited because it's like that pullback slingshot before you shoot forward again. And you will learn new things, you will receive more, your income will increase on the other side of that. And that's the like biggest lesson I've learned with the generator. This is why it's level by level. Because it's like, we don't always, if you look at literally any chart of progress, it's never like that. There's like little bits where it dips. In those dips are like such important seasons for you that are literally seeding your next evolution and momentum. So the strategy is the same, wait to respond. And again, this is just what is alive for me right now. What is my body responding to and what is it not responding to, right? With the generator, some of the core strengths, deep focused, again, mastery through repetition. So less pivoting like the Mangen. It's more about like focusing on this like one, like Taryn, like she's got multiple things going on. But with your business, it's been, yeah, how many now? But with, your in-person business, it's not been an overnight thing. It's been level by level where it's been like, okay, well, let me like approach it this way. Let me shift that. Let me do this. But it's the same thing that's just evolved over time. And that's the really powerful piece with the generator is like tending to the same thing and letting it evolve, but in those plateaus, recalibrating. Now, the friction points, again, saying yes to too much, filling the time just because you can. Comparing your pace to others can be a big one too, because sometimes the generators, again, like with the levels, it might take a little bit longer, especially if you're looking at a man gen, but also man gens have to go back and retrace their steps a lot, you know? So the shadows for each type. Um, and also taking the plateaus as signs to pivot. Do not pivot in your plateau unless it gives you the clarity of like, this ain't it anymore. Great, cool, that's not it anymore. But usually it's a means to stay rooted. So optimizing here is protecting your yes. Build fewer things, but with depth. Repeat what works instead of reinventing. Create structure and build rhythm, structured build rhythms, and depth over speed, right? Same emotional cues. So we had the satisfaction and the frustration. Now, the manifestors, have we got any manifestors? Not on this, on in the group. Where's the chat? Why can't I see the chat? There we go. 6 years, yeah, nice. No, I don't think we've got manifestors on the call, but I'll cover it anyway for people catching the recording. So manifestors are 9% of the population. So it might seem like they're the rare type. There's still a lot of manifestors out there, but this type's built to initiate. So the way that I like to see the manifestor, if you can imagine like back when manifestors were like the leaders that were taking us into war, right? They're here to like pull from urge, pull from spirit, and move into motion. Now, anyone can do that, but the manifestor doesn't have to wait, and that's the difference. It's really about receiving an urge, putting it into motion. And a lot of manifestors, if they don't understand this, because there's a lot of suppression that happens in a manifestor's childhood usually, because their energy is very powerful and filtering. And so people don't understand it, they push back against it, they try to control it. And so with manifestors, it can either manifest as like a very dominant energy where it's like, I'm not going to let anyone's opinion in, I'm just going to go do my thing, or suppressed and is always asking permission, like, should I be doing this thing? Let me wait for somebody else to do it before I do. But the manifestors are here to pretty much like create new things, like they're the trailblazers. The generators, we're builders. We make things better. We improve on. Whereas manifestors are like, this is a new thing. Let me push it in. Like if you look at a lot of big, like, I'm trying to think of one from the top of my head, like big leaders in our society, a lot of them are manifestors. Now, what's really important with the manifestor is informing. So this can get confusing when a manifestor hears this because they're like, I'm built to initiate, but I've got to inform. Isn't that just asking for permission? But it's not. It's more about preparing your environment for what you're about to do. Because a lot of the time, manifestors will come up with completely new concepts, completely new ideas, completely new ways of doing things. And so if they wait for someone to give them the green light, that's diluted. So if you are a manifestor and you're catching a replay on this, it's about preparing your environment. So, on social media or in business, for example, this could look like, hey, I'm about to make this thing, I'm about to make this move. I'm just going to let you know what's about to happen. So let's say you have a team and you're like, I'm about to completely recalibrate my whole business because I got this thing. Like your team are going to need preparation for that. So let those people who are going to be impacted know about it, right? Now with the manifester, the aura is on Google, it says repelling. I don't like that word. I call it filtering. So the manifestor aura is a filtration system. It will repel and push away those that are not meant to be in your field, not meant to be collaborating with you, not productive for the environment that you're in. The right people, it will create an opening. And so the reason that the energy for the manifestor is initiating is because some people will find that they don't really know how to enter your aura. And so when you initiate and when you open up that space, they have space to come in, right? So it's really, really important informing and initiating. So this is something like, this is what I'm launching. This is the direction I'm about to move. This is what I'm working on what might be coming next right now. People start to feel included, the pushback will decrease, and momentum will increase, right? So core strengths, starting movements, setting direction, acting independently too, like manifestors are very, very independent. Now, another thing with the manifestor is it's a non-sacral type. So generator, manifesting generator is a sacral type. This means we have consistent access to life force when in correct response. Manifestors are non-sacral, so it doesn't mean they don't have energy, but it is inconsistent. And so manifestors are not necessarily built for consistent output. If you are a manifester, having a team or having, being able to delegate the building things is very, very beneficial because you're here to be the visionary, not necessarily the one that's wearing all the hats, building all the things. So with an ecosystem, it could be really beneficial as a manifester to hire someone like a generator or a manifesting generator to do the output work and you're delegating your vision because that way you're in your power. You're able to actually do what you're designed to do. Um, so also there's a big piece with a manifester called rest cycles. The manifester will have an urge, they will create, and then it's similar to the generator plateau. They will go into a rest cycle where it almost feels like, nothing can happen. It's like I literally either need to just rest or be prioritizing play. So this is where you can build your ecosystem to accommodate that. If you're online, batch the content. If you have an ecosystem built, how can you automate the stuff so when you need to be in that rest cycle, you can actually lean back and enjoy it versus pushing forward and then burning out because the energy isn't sustainable that way, right? Now, the emotional cues for the manifester is alignment peace. So, peace being like you're left to your devices, you're not experiencing resistance, you're able to move your ideas into motion cleanly. Recalibration is anger, and this can be, variations of how anger might manifest for you, but it can be a physical feeling. So, my partner's a manifester, and he described it beautifully. He was like, it's like a kettle. So I need to like shout or I need to just like go to the gym and lift some weights and I need to push it out of my body because if not, it will suppress and it will boil and then like I will like it'll show up somewhere else in my life. And like he was a very angry, aggressive human being like years and years ago because he was suppressing his anger. Now he's literally a teddy bear because he knows how to go to the gym. He goes for a run every single day. He moves that energy through him. And it's, anger's such a creative energy when it's transmuted efficiently, right? So if you're a manifester, it's so, so important also not to shame the anger. Scream, punch a pillow, whatever it is that like does it for you, but transmute that energy when it comes through because anger suppressed is illness, right? Like where does that energy go? Whereas peace, I'm flowing. Things feel good. I'm moving in motion. Okay, so the projector. So projectors are 20% the population, built for insight and direction. So projectors, the aura is penetrating. So the way I like to like see that is it's not necessarily like you're gonna meet people and like it's just like boom. But like sometimes yes, you will see a person or you'll see a thing and it's quite literally like like I need to go and like talk to this person, or there's something I see in this person, or I've got something to give this person. And that energy, if it's not, what's the word? Like if you're not using it efficiently and in alignment, can cause resistance. And you're like, wait, like I see this thing, I want to help, but I'm coming against resistance because that energy again, like it's like how did I describe it on the last call that I did? It's like no foreplay, like if you come in with your energy that like see it and you're just like wham, like whoa, like no thank you. It's like you've got to create that environment where someone is receptive to the insight, to the direction, to what you see, because projectors, and we're not going to get into centers today, but your centers in your chart, like where we're open, where we're defined, if a projector is with another person, they're not just reflecting to them like what they're seeing, they're amplifying. And so they pull the energy out and they almost like blow it up, right? And so it can be very, very uncomfortable to be in the aura of a projector if they see something and you're not ready to receive it. Because they're not just seeing it, they're showing you what you're not willing to see or what like you've been ignoring that you know is there, right? That's why the strategy for the projector is wait for the invitation. Now, wait for the invitation is like the most vague statement ever. Like sometimes with human design, I'm like, they could have made it easier. It's already like such a intense system. Invitation is really truly about creating an opening, right? It's almost like removing resistance. And so there's three different types of invitation. You've got your direct invitation, where someone quite literally will ask you for advice, or they'll come into your field. Hey, I want to work with you. Hey, I want to be a part of this. Hey, can you give me advice on this? Great. That's your green light. Let's go. Now, there's then standing invitations where you might have had a communication with someone or heard something or seen something in the past where there was that opening and you can kind of act on that opening now. Maybe you didn't have the time before, or maybe like something was in the way. Then there is felt invitations. Now, the felt invitations are where you can create an environment where you invite them to invite you. So let's say you have a friend or you have a business um something in business where it's like, I really feel that my insight is needed here. I really feel that I need to say something or just like give some guidance, whatever it is. You can ask that person if they are ready to receive, right? So it might be, even if you see that there's a client that you're like, I just know that this person is like a perfect fit for what I do. Awesome. You can actually reach out to that person, be like, this is what I feel, but only when it's felt, right? Where, let's say you've got a friend that's talking to you and you're like, I can give them some amazing guidance right now. Instead of just giving them the guidance, be like, are you open to receiving some guidance right now? That is going to clear so much resistance compared to you should do this. And that the walls are up straight away because again, penetration without foreplay, like, nah. So we really want to create that environment for invitation because when you are received, you're going to feel so good as a projector. It's a horrible, like, I've worked with so many projectors and collaborated with a lot of projectors because generators and projectors plug very well. And it's the bitterness that a projector can feel when they're not received is like super painful because it's like, oof, like this is like what I'm built to do. Why aren't you seeing me? But it's just about creating that correct environment. Now, again, non-sacral. So there's this whole thing with projectors of like they always have to rest and they have to be sleeping and taking naps like twice a day. Again, nuance, because if I look at your chart, I could probably tell you whether you'll have a lot of energy as a projector or whether you won't, and the nap thing might be more real for you. It's not necessarily you have to always rest, it's about understanding how much the outside aura affects your energy. And so knowing when to pull back, when to say enough is enough, because as a projector also, and a non-sacral type in general, you can plug into other people's generator energy and that can become addictive sometimes. So it's like, I can do more, like yeah, like I can do it. Or you become so burnt out because there's so much energy moving through you that you're like, oh, I'm frazzled. So it's just about knowing when to focus your energy and when to pull back again. Can you delegate? Is there a way for you to, not have to build everything? That's also beneficial. So you can just be in the guidance and the direction, right? So with the invitation, this can sound something like, I can see something. Can I offer perspective? I'd love to guide this. Also, with the projector, it's really about getting really clear on your craft, right? So what is the thing that you do? What is the thing that you steward or facilitate? And building on that and being able to show your process to people, being able to invite people into, being a part of this thing, right? So it's really getting clear on like, what do you do and how do you do it? And that's where you guide from. That's where you direct from. So core strengths, pattern recognition, strategic vision, deep focus, like the way that you are going to be able to see environments and things. Like I'm over here just like, boo, 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 like you're able to read a room in a way that's just like so laser focused. Rest before you hit the exhaustion when you're feeling yourself, there's too much energy in your system. Pull back, right? Pull back, give yourself space. Let the recognition guide opportunities and also create the environment for invitations. So whether you're using social media or whether you're in person, create the environment for people to be open to you, whether that's, can I share this or would you like to hear more about this? Click this button if, right? Like permission-based marketing is really good for the projector because you're creating an opening. So like, freebies, lead magnets if you're online, something that if you're in person, like something that someone can experience before they have the full experience, because that's them saying yes and opening to more, right? So emotional cues, success. So not just success as in like the definition success, but like feeling seen, feeling recognized, like that's success for the projector. Whereas the recalibration is bitterness. And I never really understood this until I worked so much with projectors, and I was like, that bitterness is like such an intense feeling. And it can also be a feeling that brings up a lot of shame because it's like, oh, I don't want to feel jealous of that. I don't want to feel bitter about that person, but it's because that recognition isn't happening, right? So when that bitterness is coming through, okay, what is this showing me? How can I navigate my environment differently? Or also, what is it showing me that somebody else might be inspiring me through that I can shift with, right? So when that bitterness comes up, like give yourself grace and, okay, what do I got to do to shift into being recognized and being successful here? Okay, final one, reflector. So the reflector is 1% of the population. Again, there's a lot of reflectors out there, but they are the rarest type. Reflector, if you were to look at the human design chart, is completely open. So all of their shapes, their centers are white. Now, that doesn't mean like just because you have white in your chart doesn't mean broken. It just means very open and very, very, very receptive to the environment around you. So the most important thing with the reflector is their environment and the people they surround themselves with. Because if they are in the wrong place with the wrong people, they're taking in the wrong energy. And so they're making the wrong decisions. They're being impacted and influenced in the wrong way. And so they can feel very, very lost and very like, who am I? When they're in the right environments where they're feeling seen, they're feeling, like they're able to be their best self and the opportunities are supportive for them, that is when they're really going to thrive. So with the reflector, the gift here is sight, right? Like they can it's very similar to the projector in the way that there's a seeing, but with the reflector, quite literally, like imagine being able to amplify all the energy, right? Like it can be really, really uncomfortable because if that there's no awareness over that, like I've had readings with reflectors where they didn't know they were a reflector. And then I'm like, oh, so like this is the case. And they're like, oh, my whole life I thought I was broken. I thought I was just like literally so sensitive and also shamed for being sensitive. Meanwhile, that's the greatest gift. And so in a business ecosystem or even like a business team, the reflector is the one that's able to come in and go, that's what I'm seeing. And like, this is the greater picture. So let's say you're sat at a table with six people and we're all talking business. The reflector is probably going to be the one that's able to pull out this core thread that nobody else was able to see because they were all in their own energy. The reflector quite literally can sample, amplify. And so it's amazing to have insight from a reflector. It's amazing to have a reflector on the team where they're able to, come in and literally pinpoint the pattern underneath everything, right? But it's really understanding that with the reflector, the energy is fluid, inconsistent, and so deeply sensitive. So boundaries are so, so important with what you're bringing into your field, who you're choosing to be around. Like I had a friend who is a reflector, and she was telling me like about just her life story, and she was like, the places that I would be drawn to would shape me completely. And now I've become really, really discerning on like when something really doesn't feel safe and good, like I have to remove myself. I have to like leave the country sometimes because it's not supportive. And with the reflector, this is why the strategy is wait a lunar cycle. Now, a lunar cycle's 28 days. We're not going to be waiting 28 days to decide if we want to eat fruit or meat for breakfast. Like it's not these the decisions that day to day, like you make your decisions. Now, with the reflector, it's more about your bigger decisions, like investing in something or moving country or moving, things that are really going to change the trajectory of something. This is where you want to be waiting the lunar cycle. Now, if there's a time limit on something, you wait as long as possible, right? The reason that's important for the reflector is that their energy is shifting with the moon, it's shifting with who they're around, it's shifting all the time, right? It's like a chameleon energy. So if they are making decisions in the moment, then it's a lot of the time influenced by who they're with or the energy that they're feeling right now. And then 3 days later, that can change. And so by waiting as long as possible and sampling the decision in different environments around different people, this is where you're going to feel a more aligned decision for you because what stay consistent, if the yeses stay consistent over the course of like a couple of weeks, for example, then it's your decision. Versus you might be around someone who's super passionate about their work and all of a sudden now you want to do it, right? Because you're literally imprinting their energy onto yours, right? So, really, just so important for the reflector with their environment. So, the strengths are a deep awareness, ability to reflect truth of what's happening. So, I always say with the reflector, it's like intuitive marketing. So, what are you feeling right now? People might be talking about all these different things, and you're like, but like this is coming through. Share that, right? Seeing patterns across time, not just moments, and sensitivity that picks up what others miss. So it's always about seeing underneath what most will see. Now, the friction points of rushing decisions, forcing consistency, also like staying in environments that are off. Like that is really going to impact in a negative way for the reflector, amplifying other people's energy. And so, a practice I gave to a reflector client of mine was, as much as possible, once a week at minimum, is to sit with the themes of the energy centers and be like, okay, is this mine? Is this mine? Like whenever you feel something intense, and this goes for every type, is this mine? Right? Or have I pulled this up from my parent or a friend? Or because as a reflector, especially, and projectors, a lot of time, like if you've got a lot of openness, you're bringing in a lot. And sometimes it's not yours. Meanwhile, like you've made it yours. And so, really getting super locked in on the energetic hygiene. Optimizing, giving yourself full space to make decisions, choosing environments that feel clean, not just convenient, letting perspective evolve before locking anything in. And so, again, time is your best friend as a reflector. Give it time. If people don't understand that, then, again, that's a gauge of like the people that are surrounding you. Build flexibility into the business structure and track what shifts over time, not just once. So the alignment cue for the reflector is surprise. This is like, okay, amazing. Like I'm in the right environment and with the right people. Like, hell yeah, this energy like feels surprisingly really good to me. Recalibration is disappointment, right? Like I thought this was going to be the thing. And then you're in the disappointment because it's not, because maybe you made a move on somebody else's energy, right? Okay, so I have covered authority a little bit in this, but we'll skim over them. So authority type is how your energy is working. Authority is how you're making decisions. So there is 7 different types of authority in human design. I think I'm covering 4 in this. So Taryn, if there's anyone who I didn't cover, just let me know and I can like send you a voice note and break it down. You can forward it through. Um, but this is your internal decision making system. So like when we speak to listening to your intuition, that's awesome, yes, but also the intuition lives in different parts of the body for different people, right? So for some it's a whisper, for some it's a feeling, for others it's a sound, right? So human design gives you language to where that intuition can live. And honestly, like it's changed my life in so many, like literally changed my life in so many ways, being able to understand how I make decisions and being able to honor those pieces versus just always like saying yes from the mind and then ended up in situations where I'm like, great. So emotional is 50% of the population. This one, I think, yeah, like majority of people are either emotional, um, sacral, or invitation. So clarity coming over time. This is an emotional wave. So the phrase that I have is like, there's no truth in the now for the emotional authority. You are going to decide based on how you feel in that moment, right? And if you do, sometimes that can actually be the wrong decision to make because you're either in a high and you want to say yes to everything. So you're like, yeah, like life is so good. Like I'm ovulating, like woohoo, yeah, commit, 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 commit. And then by the time your wave has come back down, you're like, oh hell no. Like I really didn't want to do that thing. Like that was just my like manic yes. Whereas when you're in the low, you want to say no to things that might be in alignment. And so, you know, day to day again, sometimes you just have to make decisions. That's the way it is. But bigger decisions, wait at least 24 hours, right? Because what's going to happen is when you can sample decisions over the course of your wave, and, as women, and even men, right? We're shifting our emotions moment to moment. We can wake up in the morning and be like, it's the best day ever. By 1 p.m., something happens and now it's the worst day ever, right? So we're operating on this cycle of emotions. And so by sampling a decision, let's say it's a big investment, right? Okay, it feels like a yes in my body. Let me just wait. And what happens is you might experience the yes excitement. Then you also might experience the doubt, right? And the like, ooh, let me think about this, or ooh, is this the right choice? But if you're still coming out of that with a yes, then it's a yes. So you want to be seeking this kind of like neutral feeling. And so I find that when my yes is like a really anchored yes, there's no like stimulus that's coming from it. It's more like just this calm, clear, like, yeah, I'm doing the thing. I've experienced the doubt, I've experienced the confusion, I've experienced the high, and it's still a yes. Let's go. And a lot of the time, those decisions, when made from that place, are so much more anchored and bear like really powerful fruit because you made it in alignment with your energy at that time. Now, with the emotional authority as well, I find that separate from the decisions, we can really lock ourselves in the highs or lows. So when we're in the highs, it's like, oh my God, yes, like I want this to last forever. When we're in the lows, we can fix them and be like, oh my God, like everything's broken. I need to just quit. I need to burn it all to the ground. Again, it's like there's no certainty in the now. So emotional waves, the more you can just let them pass through you, it is a chemical process. And actually, what I find in the lows, they are really, really potent alchemy experiences. When you're in that low and you let it ride through and you feel it and you don't try to like manipulate it or try to move it too early, on the other side is always the juiciest ideas, the juiciest energy, because as above, so below, you know? And a lot of us, we try to avoid the emotional low, and it's such a potent, like, it's such a gift. Right? Whenever I'm in a low now, I'm like, hell yeah, let me like go chill out and like wait for this to pass and like learn what I gotta learn. And on the other side is like so much breakthrough, right? So the clarity comes over time. Ride the wave, whatever it's giving you, thank it, look at the data within it, it will always pass. Literally always, right? So what that will sound like is, I need to sit with this, setting a boundary with people. If someone wants to know, whether you can commit to something straight away and it doesn't feel like you have the clarity yet, set that boundary. I do it all the time with people where I'm like, I don't know if I'll have the capacity for that. Can I let you know once I have the clarity? Some people will understand, some people won't. But oh, I think we froze. Oh, we're back. Some people won't. But the people that don't, like they're, that's giving you data too, right? Aligned, the decisions feel steady. There's no emotional charge, it's a neutrality. Misaligned, deciding at a high or low, regretting the next day. That's a big cue where you're like, oh no, like that, I shouldn't have said yes to that thing. I definitely said it out of a need to prove or like just to say yes. Now in business, this is, if you're taking your big business decisions through, sit on them, right? I have this saying that's like, nothing that is for you will pass you. And if it passes you, it wasn't for you. Like, it's simple, it will always come back around again. So that's the emotional authority. Now, sacral is going to be our generator and manifesting generator types. Clarity is immediate. So with your sacral, it's quite literally the way I like to see it is like an opening and a closing. Yes, I'm available. No, I'm contracted, or not yet. I don't know, right? So if you're not getting that, like, yes, I can pour energy into this thing right now, it's either a not yet or a no. Now, of course, we're in, this 3D world where sometimes we got to make decisions. Sometimes we, got to do the thing we don't want to do. That's fine. Like we can't always be operating in pure alignment, but it is about starting to notice how can I make as many decisions from this sacral response as I can, because it's quite literally acting from your life force energy. So imagine like the sacral is a battery, and each time you say yes, some of that energy gets used. If you're always saying yes to the wrong things that your body has always already said no to, you're using energy that was never meant to be used on the things that you're saying yes to. And this is how you become degenerative, because your energy is being pulled from places it's not available for. So this for the sacral can sound like a mm-hmm or a or a yes or a squeal or a sound that's like exciting. If it's a no, it's going to be kind of like a or like a pullback, or you're going to feel it in your body. Like whenever I feel my sacral no, it's quite literally like a dull feeling. I just don't get the spark towards something. And so I know like, okay, I don't have the energy for that right now. Cool. Like let me wait. Let me see if something else drops in. If it's aligned also, you will get energy from the experience. So this is where the generator energy comes through. You will literally create more, building what is in alignment with you. If it's not aligned, it will drain you, right? And it'll just be a slog, right? Misaligned, saying yes from the head or saying yes from trying to prove is a big one as well. Overthinking a clear response, energy dropping after committing, again, frustration whilst you're building the project. So in business, don't crowdsource decisions. If you get that, not yet, listen to that. What is it showing you? If you get the no, listen to that. It might be that it's not a no for the bigger, the complete thing, but it might be something needs to shift before you can have the capacity for that thing. Use your response in tandem. So the response is usually going to create the opening for your sacral to go yes or no. And notice whether your energy is expanding or contracting after committing. Now, splenic, so this will be projector. So if you're certain projectors will have splenic, some will have emotional, some will have other types like self-projected. Splenic is instinctive. So similar to the sacral, that it's in the moment, but it's coming from a slightly different place. So the spleen is the oldest center in human design. It's the most primal center. The way I like to describe the spleen is like animals are splenic. So when an animal makes a decision, or it senses danger, or it wants to sleep, or it wants to rest, or it wants to eat, it's not like, oh, should I eat? Like, what should I eat? It's just, I'm hungry. That's dangerous. Like it's very, very instinctual. That is the same with the spleen. It speaks in the moment, and it usually isn't very loud either. And it doesn't really give you a description as to why that is a yes. It's more like, nah, okay, it's a no, right? And so it's really easy with the spleen to go to the mind because you want reasoning. And so I don't know if you guys have seen the film Final Destination, like really old film, but like basically it's about like a series of events where something will happen, like they get on a plane, and like someone will have a premonition and be like not getting on the plane. That's like the splenic intuition, where it's like it's a no. And people are like, what? Come on. Like, how do you know it's a no? And you're like, I just know. Or I just know it's a yes. Right? So, like, when I'm working with Splenic and they're on a sales call with me and they're like inquiring and they're like, it really feels like a yes. I'm like, okay, you're Splenic, go with that. Don't take too long trying to decide, because your yes already spoke. And then you'll have the experience if you're Splenic of like when it's a yes and you've said no. And then later down the line, you're like, I knew it. I knew I should have done that thing. I knew it was a yes, right? This is why the experiment, and the evidence of looking at like past decisions and when you didn't listen, but it's always just going to feel like an off feeling or a right feeling, or you just know. And it's also not going to make sense sometimes financially. It's not going to make sense to other people. But that's your body. Basically, the spleen acts on what is healthiest for your survival. So what it's doing is saying that is good for our survival. That is good for our, health. It's good for our future, or it's not, right? And you'll feel this with people, you'll feel this with places. And so it's listening to like, what is my immediate in the moment response? Quick and calm, minimal mental debate, strong sense of safety off of that decision as well, and no over explaining. Whereas the misaligned is ignoring the instinct. So it's like, whatever, and like kind of choosing when you want to listen and when you don't, over consulting with others, second guessing, and staying in situations that feel like a no and you're just pushing yourself to be in them, right? Like that's dangerous for you. Your body is quite literally saying to you, like, no, get out, right? So in business, this is like trusting the first read that you get on people, making clean hiring and partnership decisions, not waiting for the emotional certainty, like listening to those intuitive hits in the moment, because it's telling you information that like you can't rationalize it. You're never going to have a reason until later down the line when you see how that thing played out, right? And move when it feels clean, not when it's feeling like, oh, like I should do that thing, right? Then we have Luna. So I kind of went over this with the Luna one. So this is the 28 days cycle. So it's just about sampling the decisions over the 28 days and the Luna is just the reflector. So this is the only one that will have this authority. But the reason taking time and just sampling it over different people, different environments, is that you'll feel the energy differently. So let's say you're with a friend and she's like, I want to start a business doing whatever. And you're like, oh, you know what? Like, I could get on that. Yeah. And you're feeling her passion. And then you're like, but wait, like, I'm not going to commit to that right now. Give me a week or so. Like, I just need to kind of like take this decision and just like feel into it. And then you meet another friend, and then you go somewhere else to the park and like, you sit in your own energy and it's a no. Great. That's awesome because now you have the clarity that it was just their energy that was inspiring you. So it's really important with the Luna to just make sure that you're giving yourself space to be in different environments with the decision so that you can feel, is this my truth and my energy and my decision? Or is it something I picked up as inspiration from someone else and I'm just kind of like mimicking their own passion about it? Super, super important because then you're committing to the right things and you're not going to be disappointed. Self-projected, I think we've got one self-projected on here. Hey, so self-projected, I absolutely love telling people who are self-projected about their self-projected authority because it's just such a like, I don't like to use the word permission slip, but like you're meant to be processing out loud. And I don't know, your history. I don't know any of that, but a lot of readings that I've done, self-projected will dull their voice a lot from childhood because they have processed out loud their whole lives. And people have been like, you always talk about yourself. Why are you always making it about you? Why are you like sharing that? Like, don't share that. When the self-projected, it's literally what it says on the tin because your throat and your G center are the two centers connected, which means your G center, your identity, your sense of self, your mission, your direction is coming out through your throat. So every decision you make, everything that you do runs through the system of like, is this aligned with my mission? How do I feel about this thing? And you don't know really how you feel until that kind of it comes out of you. Yeah. So it's less about like when you're making decisions, for example, it's less about saying it to see what people think. It's more about hearing yourself speak about it. So you might be speaking about a project that you want to start and you're like, oh, and I'm doing this thing and oh, maybe I need to change that. And as you're like saying it, you'll be processing it. Or you might tell someone else and you've lost a bit of passion for it. So voice noting yourself, having a safe space where you can drop voice notes into without like I have a client in one of my programs and she's self-projected and I've really encouraged her to like take up the space and she comes in now and she's like I'm just gonna dump this like I don't really need a response I just need to like play it back but it's a safe space that no one's gonna kind of like try to give her advice try to push back on her so if that's your voice memos in your app or it's someone that you know or like a mentor whatever it is putting your voice out there to be able to process is so, so important. Or just having a friend that you're like, hey, I just need to process out loud right now. Like, can you just be that for me? I don't need anything from you. I just need you to be that for me. Like, priceless, right? Do not be like, use your voice. It's got to happen. That's how you're going to find your best decisions are made, because you've got to hear your own passion or lack thereof come through you to be able to have that clarity. Because what it's doing, it's pulling out all the data in the G center, putting it out, and almost for you to like feel and see. So then you can like bring it back and like act on it. Okay, so the final segment that we're going to get into, because I love this piece for self-leadership, also for creating, for positioning yourself, for content creation if you're online, like super amazing. Also really good for this really eliminated a lot of comparison for me when I learned it, because I was looking at other people and being like, "Whoa, the way they position themselves is like so powerful." Meanwhile, like my profile's completely different. I'm not supposed to teach that way. I'm not supposed to create content that way, you know? And so it really removes the noise because it shows you like how you're designed to lead. So it shapes how people perceive you, why they trust and see you as an authority, how your content may naturally land if you're creating content, how you can even position yourself in like your team, if you have a team, in your business, in your work, and what makes you feel authentic. So when you're looking at your chart, when you get your little breakdown, you'll see two numbers. It'll be like a number, a slash, and another number. That's your profile. So there's 12 different profiles, six different profile lines. We're not going to get into like every single profile variation, but I am going to go through each line for you. If you want to see where it lives on the chart, it's where, if you see where my mouse is here, 23.1, 49.3, this is my chart. It's the point 1, point 3, 1, 3, right? You don't need to know that, but if you were curious as to where it lives, there you go. The two lines work together. So your first one is your conscious expression. So this is the one where like how you might identify with this side of you more. The second one is how others may experience you and how your energy lands. Now, not super important for you to understand that. Just wanted to give it to you. Now, let's get into each one. So the line one is the investigator. This one is all about depth, foundation, and authority. You may find if you're a line one that you really like to deep dive. You like to know things. You like to teach information. You never know enough. There's also sometimes a vulnerability that comes with the one where it's like, I don't know enough, and so I can't teach that. So I'll keep myself in preparation, or I'll get another certification, and then now you're just learning and learning and learning, and like you've never actually been able to teach the damn thing. Like, look, but actually with the one, you learn as you go. And so like I remember when I was in the beginning of my human design journey, I'd have clients come into my world who would ask me questions I didn't know the answer to. And I'd be like, "Oh my God, like they're gonna fire me because I don't know." But I actually just took it as an opportunity to learn something. And so you learn as you go, but you can only really develop properly as a one when you start to share your depth, right? Ones are amazing with really highlighting what's important in your niche or craft or field of work. Like, if you can think of, like, we're the blueprint builders. So for me, even, I teach the really solid, like, what are the foundations of business that need to be refined or anchored for everything else to work? I'm almost like the foundations of a home. So when people come to me, I'm like, is your architecture solid? How are you doing it by design? Because if not, everything that you do is going to be leaky because it's not built for you, by you, and the foundations are all over the place. Whereas most people skip that. They want to go straight to scaling. I'm like, well, you can try and scale, but if your foundations are shit, like you're going to be coming back to like start one all the time, you know? So with the one, it's like, how can I show people the foundations, the depth, like not the shiny object, but the real thing that they need to be looking at in whatever area that you serve in that's really going to make a shift, right? So you build trust through substance. Your leadership strengthens when it's backed by your knowledge, your mastery, your clarity, right? So don't be afraid to like be the teacher. Like you're here to teach, you're here to share your depth of research. And your audience feels safest when you sound grounded and informed, right? So your brand, your business, it grows when you teach from what you're deeply understanding, not what you're guessing at, right? But also you gotta like put it out there. There's always going to be this, like, I don't know enough, I could know more. Yeah, you could know more, but like right now, you know a lot. So just get it out there, right? I get nervous every single time I teach this, even though I've done it 1,000 times. But like, it just is the way it is for like the line one. Okay, the two is the natural, or when you look at it on Google, it'll say hermit. I like to call it the natural. This one is ease, talent, effortless magnetism when in alignment, when being called out. So for the two, the gifts look simple even when they're not. This can also result in the two being like, oh, I have nothing of substance to share. Because it's almost like, when we're in our craft, like when I teach human design, for me, this is like a second language at this point. But when I teach it to people, their brains explode. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like but for me, like I've already had that process. For the two, it's very similar. It's like, oh, well, it's just natural for me. It's just part of my intuitive state. It's just like something that I channeled, whatever. But other people are like, excuse me, what? So, like, you've got to share these pieces as they come through. And it's not about pushing visibility. The way I like to describe the two, and this is why it has the hermit archetype, is there will be times where you have a lot to share. There's a lot of ideas moving through. And then there will also be times where you go in your shell and you don't have ideas. It's almost like you're kind of cooking in the lab, but like you don't really want to be out front facing. And it's like a pearl. So with the pearl in a shell, like if we try and open the pearl early, what's going to happen? There's no pearl, right? It's not gestated yet. Whereas like when we give it time, when we open that, we have this really unique insight, this pearl of wisdom that people can receive. Now, really important piece for the two line, it's really about being called out. So you may find that your greatest insights come when somebody mentions something to you, or they ask you a question, or you might see something and want to speak on it. But when people call you out, it's going to land, but also people can only see you to call you out at the level that you see yourself. So if you're saying, oh, my insight's like not that valuable, or I don't have anything of, good to share, people aren't gonna be able to see you the way that you could be seen because you're not doing it yet, right? So you've got to really trust in these natural abilities that you have and the things that you share, and you're not going to share things the same way other people do, right? So it's really, really powerful. If you are creating content or batching or whatever, like automating batching in advance when you have that like opening is really beneficial. So when you go into your hermit, you're not just like pieced out and you're like, oh no, like I've lost my momentum, right? So preparing for those cycles is where you build sustainability versus, just working where it's like on, off, because that's also gonna, you're not gonna be able to enjoy the hermit phase, which you should be able to, right? Line three is the martyr or the experimenter, as I like to call it. So this one's all about lived experience, resilience, realness, trial and error being the core of this profile archetype. Share your lived experience in whatever work that you're doing. It's so, so important to be sharing your story, sharing where you hit a wall, sharing your failures, sharing the lessons, because the line three is almost like I've been through the ringer so that you don't have to. So you become someone who can provide really, really powerful shortcuts for people because you took the long route. You like fell in the river on the way. Like there's these things that happened where you're able to go, hey, don't go that way. Like let me show you an easier way to do things. And so sharing transparently with your audience, like what you've moved through is a really beautiful mirror to what they can achieve, right? So do not be afraid to share the messy journey as the three. Like my stuff does the best always because I'm a three. When I'm like, here's where I've been, here's what failed for me, here's what I've learned, here's what I'm learning. Like it's this messy, real, authentic journey where I'm not just showing like my wins. I'm showing like, here's what went wrong. And so it makes me superhuman as well. And people can resonate with human, not perfect. So your brand grows and your business grows when you share the journey, not just the outcome. So the four is the networker or the opportunist. So this is influence expanding through relationships. Taryn, you're a four, right? 4, 6? Yeah. So community being super, super beneficial. And this doesn't even necessarily mean that you have to have this like massive community or massive following or massive anything. It doesn't mean it's got to be huge scale. I see it more like a web. So, spider web, for example, is all these little strands that bridge together. So who is in that web and who you are web weaving with is always going to be a beautiful opportunity for you. So, if you need clarity on something or you need help with something or an opportunity comes in, a lot of the time it will come through the network in some way, or like you can look to your network for that. And so when you're creating content or when you're working with people, you want to be speaking to them as if they're already a part of your community. People are going to want to lean into you when they feel like they're a part of your world. So it's really about like at the forefront, creating connection, creating loyalty, creating community, right? They feel like they can sit and have a cup of tea with you already, even through the social media screen, right? That's how then they lean in, right? And I feel like you do this so well, Taryn, because like when you get on and you record content, you're just like, you're there. Like, you could be in the room with you, right? And that's how people are then like, well, now I can imagine being in the room with her because she's already made me feel that way, right?
I'd love if
So
there
the
was some more sense to a lot of the things that I spew out.
yeah,
But it does
totally.
work.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, audience stays because they feel like they're a part of something. Like I had another mentor who's a four line and she does it beautifully. Like she'd post every day and she's like, "What's up, ladies? Like, here are my morning thoughts." And she'd just share like these community elements. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not me. And again, this is why the comparison thing is so beautiful because you see I'm a 1-3, like like I don't want to do that. I want to teach, I want to a lot of polls and a lot of things where people could like engage with her. And she has it says my internet's unstable, so just let me know if I like drop out. Um, so she has a lot of people that stay in her world because she's made them feel that way. And also she gets a lot of opportunities through the people in her world because she's built that strong community, right? So it's really important with the four. 5 is the heretic or the solutionist. I change the names because sometimes I'm like, I don't like that. I'm going to call it something else. But the solutionist is kind of what it says on the tin. So really about solving your people or, the problem that your business solves, solving their problems, right? Providing solutions for your audience. So a big part of this is creating like problem aware content, speaking to the problems that people are facing and being like, this is how we're going to fix that, right? The 5 line, it can be heavily projected on, and people will naturally come to you. People will naturally come to you for the answers. It's the way I like to see it is like you have a full cup of your solutions and like your energy you can give. You've got to be discerning as to who you pour that to. Because if people are in your DMs like, hey, do you have the answer for this? And you know that they're not going to take that seriously, especially if you're a projector, all that's going to happen there is you're going to feel drained, you're going to feel bitter, you're going to feel like, what was the point in me doing that? They didn't even take it on board, right? So it's like pick your battles, pick which problems you solve, because not everyone is going to be receptive to receiving that solution. And so when you communicate like, hey, this is what I'm seeing as the problem and this is how we fix it, and you position your work as that solution, you're going to get the right people coming in because they recognize themselves in the problem and now they want you to help them fix it, right? But yeah, it's really big one with boundaries. Be direct, be specific with one, the person you're speaking to. So you're messaging, if you're speaking to people who are victims and they just want to like, oh yeah, I've got this problem, but they just want to wallow in it, that's what you're going to attract. If you position yourself as someone that's like, hey, you're seeking the solution to this, you just haven't found it yet. Like, but I got it for you. You're going to bring in people who want to do the work and they want to show up, right? And that's going to give you a way easier time than just trying to like save everybody, right? So clarity will strengthen your influence. 6th line is the role model. So this is our final one. Now, from the age of 0 to 30, The six operates as a three line. So a lot of trial and error, a lot of learning, a lot of bumping into things. It's kind of like until the Saturn return. And then they go into the sixth phase where it's almost like, okay, this is what I've learned and this is how I now teach that. Here's how I like, use that as wisdom to be able to guide people forward. So the role model is, I've said this to Taryn in fact 1,000 times, like if you're not sharing your story, you're leaving money on the table, right? Because how do you choose someone as a role model? You want to know their story. Why is it that autobiographies do so well? And autobiographies are not like, hey, I was born and then I won in life and like that's it. It's always about the story and like the hero journey. And you identify with the hero journey. And so you look to that person as a role model and you go, wow, they've been through very similar things to me. I really resonate with that. And now they're there. Well, I want to know. So I can see myself in their story, so I can see myself in their win too. Teach me how to win, right? Teach me how to get to like my version of where you're at. So when sixes aren't telling their story, and so many sixes come to me and they're like, I don't have anything to share. I'm like, go back through your life, do a like life trajectory exercise, pull out all the core moments. Those are the pieces that you need to share. Everything that changed your trajectory for you, those are your like pinpoints that you come back to, like pillars, and you relate your story back to that over and over again. And people will choose you as their role model, they'll choose you as their leader. So it's leading by example, sharing where you've been, where you've come from, what you learned, and then how you've shifted that to be able to achieve what you have now or what you're working towards. And people are trusting you because they see you as the embodiment of the work that you're sharing, right? So that's the six. It's really, really powerful, like embodiment perspective, long game leadership too. Long game, like things take time to build, right? Sustainable journey, which is, exactly what Taryn's doing. She's not teaching quick. She's teaching like anchored, grounded, sustainable, you know? And the brand matures with you. So you're always adding new pieces to that overarching like hero story. Okay, I'm just gonna check the chat. So just before we finish as well, like there's a lot of information that I've given you. You'll have the replay to go back through, but application over information. This is information that I'm giving you, but it only gets taken and actually like you see shifts from it if you apply it, right? So it shows you how to operate, it shows you how to engage, how to decide, how you're experienced, but you've got to be the one to go out now and go, right, I'm gonna have a day where you're like, I'm literally gonna live by my design today, like no matter what. I'm going to respond. I'm going to like create opportunities for invitation and go play with it. And the more that you play with it, and this is how it links with the subconscious, it creates new neural pathways. And so like for me, when I make decisions now, because I've played so much with my authority, my brain goes, oh, this isn't our job. We've got to see how we feel. And like I've trained my subconscious and my neuroplasticity to do that. But that's only through experimentation. Whereas I see so many people, they learn human design, but they know it, but they don't know what it means to live it because you haven't lived it. So like go out, play with that, like bring it into your business because it's so, so powerful, truly. Just a few questions that you can either screenshot, just like little self-reflection piece. Where are you already operating in coherence with your design? Where are you overriding your strategy and go into the mind? Where are you letting your mind make decisions your authority should? What would you shift if you trusted things more consistently? What would shift in your world right now? Right. I'll send you the slides as well, Taryn, so you can upload these if people want them. All right, let me pull the chat up. Let's have a look.
Wow. Let's all have a round of applause for me. That was awesome. That was so informative, and you just woke the fuck up. I'm so sorry, but good job.
It's all right. I'm a morning person. I feel like it just switches and I'm like, I'm in.
You wouldn't, no one on this side of the screen would have guessed that you just woke up 20 seconds ago. So hot chicken, girl. But anyway, good job. Anyone have any questions for B? Raise your hand if you want to come up or just unmute. But I really like, yeah, every time I hear, a new one of your teachings, I always get something new from it. And it's so beautiful to see, all of these different expressions of these different nuances across I'm just thinking about all different clients that I know, their like specific parts of their charts and being like, oh, I can see how I can support them better here. And this pattern is not in alignment for them because of this, obviously. And so I love being able to just leverage the awareness. It really is just awareness of all of these different nuances that we all hold that are also so dictated by astrology and childhood and so many other things too, but there's some similar threads that a lot of people really do all function from. So it's so beautiful to have that mapped out so squeaky clean like that. That was an awesome presentation, and I think that the replay is going to be really beneficial and useful for people for probably a while to come because I feel like this stuff is really it's evolutionary, but those are the really, grounded tenets to how to approach it from a foundational perspective. So I was so inspired per usual. And sorry that I was like on the phone and doing a million things during this time, but I was also listening very intently. But anyone have any questions for B? Because we are
I'm just
going
gonna look at the
to,
chat too because I think there's a few in
yeah.
there. What's the difference between splenic and sacral? I always get confused by that. So splenic, and I'm not sure if I answered this, but I will just go over it again. Splenic is from the spleen center. So when you look at your human design chart, the spleen, you've got your spleen and you've got the sacral. Sacral is life force. So each center has its own theme. Sacral is life force energy, and so it's almost like a battery of energy. It's availability. Whereas the spleen is instinct and survival and well-being. So splenic is more instinctual, as in like what is best for my survival. That's why like when the spleen speaks, it's like, no, like we gotta fucking listen because this is the difference between like actually to give an example, I have an open spleen. So when we're open, we can be easily conditioned, a little bit more easily conditioned. The way I found human design actually was I had a really bad motorbike accident 5 years ago and I broke my jaw in three places. And I was in the hospital. Yeah, gnarly. I was in the hospital and I remember getting an infection. And I was like, I have an infection. My intuition was like, you have an infection. I like could feel it. And they were like, no, they scanned, they did all the bits and pieces in the hospital that they should have done to check. Nothing. And then 5 days later, my face is like twice the size. And I'm like, I have an infection. And they're like, right, we have to operate again. And I ended up having multiple other surgeries. My jaw ended up out of place. Now I've got like pain in my jaw like constantly. And that would have not happened if they'd have listened to me. And it was funny because I was in the hospital for 2 weeks and I found human as I'd looked at it and been like playing with it. And then I pulled it up and I saw this part of my chart. And because I was letting myself be conditioned by the authority, the doctor, who knew more than me, right? I didn't listen to myself. And so when I learned that about the spleen, I was like, shit, like the spleen speaks from a place of we're noticing something's not healthy for you or something is right for you. So that's why it's like it's not going to explain itself because it's certainty that's like, yes, no, dangerous. You know that feeling like, when you're around a certain like people and you're like, whoa, I don't like the feeling of that person. And it's like gives you the heebie-jeebies and you're like, whoa, I need to like that's almost like the splenic feeling where you're just like, no, like something's off. Whereas sacral is opening. Yes, I have the energy to pour into that. No, I don't. It's more about creating and building and like life force versus splenic being like, no, like danger. Yes, this will like expand you. Love a good sounding board. Hell yeah. As a full-on Capricorn with splenic authority, hard to find the balance between my logic, strategic side, and instinctual response. So with the balance, and again, I think this is where the experimentation, the play comes in, because you've got to start noticing the spleen. Because again, like the mind is so much louder than the spleen. So the spleen's gonna go no. And you're gonna go, but like maybe if, or like you're gonna try and explain it. But it's like, okay, what happens if I listen this time? And it's going to be hard because your mind is going to fight you and relay all the patterns as to why that might not be right. But this is where, like, when I started my human design journey, and anytime I want to recalibrate to my design, I make a note in my phone. And it's like times I went with my authority, times I went with my mind. And I literally will write down what happened. So if I go with my mind and I rationalize, I'll write it down. I'm like, hey, look, like, fuck things up, went with my authority and waited, broke through. This opportunity came in, this opportunity. So create an evidence log because that's also how then your brain creates new pathways to recalibrate you living by design into your daily experience, right? So we take that information, we like literally create new pathways with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a
Mm,
lot of sense. Thank you so much, V.
yeah, you're welcome. Let's see. As a 2-5 self-projected projector, I hermit and then come out, blow everybody's mind once they give me the invitation. Am I the one with the limited and also am I the one with the limited energy? So, can you give me a little bit of a like reflection on like how that looks for you, and then I can give you some guidance.
What do you mean?
In terms of like, were you saying like, is this what I do kind of thing?
Yeah, well, so I have dabbled in human design.
Mhm.
I'm not like I don't know. I'm definitely not an authority by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know shit about gates. Um, but I get the gist.
Yeah.
So, kind of with being a 2-5, I get that I'm a hermit and a heretic, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of just where and it's like, I don't know, I'm having an issue. The limited energy part is like probably the biggest part of my question because
Yes.
I
Okay.
feel that, because part of my personal work has been, taking my over masculinated needing to push and grind and have results and da 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 and get into my feminine. That's been a lot of my healing journey personally. And I
Yeah.
think that's the world, truly. Um, but because it's like I'm just struggling with that because I know I need to like do these things with my business,
Uh-huh.
but if I'm fighting my design at its core, do you know what I'm saying? So it's like
Totally.
that's where it's coming from ultimately. But I will say overall, thank you so much for so much fucking confirmation on how I've been handling shit recently. Like I'm like, okay, I'm doing it. So thank you.
Yay, you're welcome.
Yay.
You're welcome. Yeah, I totally get you with the energy piece, and this is I come up against this a lot with projectors because it's like I like, and again, because there's so much nuance with centers, for example, because
Yeah.
like there's some motor centers and some not. If you're finding that it's like, I want to build this thing, but I'm like, it's inconsistent, it's more about, I mean, there's always going to be seasons where you're in more of a build and that we sometimes have to push a little bit through. Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I do say that to people. I'm like, listen, you want to build a business, there's going to be things you don't want to do that you have to do. End of story. Like
Yeah.
we love alignment and alignment as much as possible, but there are going to be days where you have to drag yourself to that business and do the thing because then that's creating the spaciousness where when you don't have the energy, you can take the nap. You can chill out because you've built the structure and the architecture to sustain you. But it is
Perfect.
about just I feel like tapping in with yourself and being like, right, can I push through right now and like get this done? Is this coming from a place of like maybe I'm like sabotaging a little bit, or
Mm,
is this genuinely like I need to stop? Because there is no business if you're burnt out,
right.
you know?
Perfect.
So it's just finding, and again, this is where the experimentation comes in. Okay, like what if I push through a little bit? Or like what if I give myself a really like realistic set of tasks to do today and I make sure I get those done, but I don't push myself further than I need to. And I also don't feel, and because you might even feel sometimes like, oh, there's so many people building so many things, and like, why don't I have the energy for that? But
Yeah.
like the more, and I mean, I don't know if you're in a position where you can delegate certain things yet. If you can't, you'll have to do those things first. But once you can, that's where you would delegate to someone who could
Love to
build those things
delegate.
for you. Hell yeah.
Yeah. My Jupiter's in Gemini, so I'm like, ideas, 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 but it's like, do something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. And the way that I like to explain this through like my architecture lens, because I teach a lot of organization and how to like streamline and get really, focused on the things that move the needle, is
Mm,
like, what are your key priorities? And I also have this thing called like the bare minimum week and the optimized week.
mm,
So our energy is changing all the time. You can be in a optimized week where, there's ovulation and we're up and we're at energy and it's like, wow, like I can get so much done. And then you've got your bare minimum week where like you don't want to do anything, but you still hit these needle movers. And so like depending on where you're at in your business, this can look different. But like for me, that's like content a couple of times a week, making
yeah.
sure I serve my clients, those are my bare minimums, but I'm not creating a new product. I'm not doing, big calls or anything. So it's also like, what do I want to achieve in the next 3 months? And what is my key priority for that right now? That way, then you'll know where to focus instead of being like, oh my God, I've got so much to do. And then you just want to implode because it's like so much pressure on the system.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great. Thank you. Yes,
I love
I
that. Earth
appreciate it.
outside. There you go. Go Earth, grounded
Uh-huh.
in, good to go. Yeah.
The earth has the answer for everything.
Huh?
Or
The earth
fire.
has the answer for everything.
Oh, yeah.
All things. Wow. Well, I am so grateful for this call, and I am so grateful that it's just a resource until the next Earth Medicine Mind. B is our resident human design expert. So if you'll be seeing her again on cohort 2, which is coming at the end of the summer at some point. We have to figure out the launch for that. But I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if we're going to alter the presentation or if we're going to keep it the same, but regardless, there's always going to be something new to pull away from how all of our practices with all of this information evolve constantly. So, yeah, Beth said this was amazing, so much juicy info. Yay. And I'm pretty sure Beth just learned about her human design today. So, good job, Beth, for getting the frickin' front row
Woo, woo.
seat to a whole fucking encyclopedia of shit right away. Um, good,
Yeah.
that's a lot. So if you have to re-listen to this, take some notes, tune in about it. That is always recommended and suggested. So anyway, does anyone have anything else to share? You all feel complete.
Also, you can contact me at Be Embodied. I had a little slide, but we went straight into questions. So my Instagram is bee.embodied, and I share all things human design and business.
Yes, and make sure you just send me an email with like
Will do.
the links and stuff for like your human design chart, and if you want to put like the the event. What is your event before Aligned by Design, or what is it? The Business by Design. Do you have
Yeah.
an event for that or a wait list or something? You can
No,
also
not right
include
now,
that.
but I can send you my like thing and
Just create a wait list for next Business by
oh, I
Design
have
and
that.
send it
Yeah,
to
yeah,
me.
yeah. I'll pop that in. I'll send you
Okay,
some bits.
good. Fantastico. I love it all. Thank you all. Thank 2 times in one day, Earth Medicine Mind.
Woo!
Woo! Pretty amazing. Anyways, I love you all. Sleep
Thanks.
well, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you, B.